Hello, everyone, and how are you today? Have you ever felt like you were getting things wrong in your relationship with your teens? You're like, oh, I can't get it right. I'm always doing this certain thing. This is always getting wrong. You know, have you ever felt this feeling of guilt associated to how you parent your teen? So today we are on the Wired for Success podcast with my colleague Steve Costello and myself, Patience Modevi, and we are talking about parents feeling less like they are getting it wrong. So today we are going to have a discussion around how we can support you to understand how getting it wrong or not getting it wrong is really not the question here. So today we'll start by discussing a little bit of that. And then, obviously, if you need more support around that, or if you are going through a situation like this, get in touch with us so that we can support you to have a better relationship with your teenager. So, Steve, get us started.
Get started. Right. I'm going to tell you a little story. And this just popped into my head from some marketing training I did a couple of years ago. So the training was to enable me to market my own business in a more effective way. And one of the tasks we were set was to write an ad for Google. So you would put it into the Google system and pay for it and target your audience, all of that stuff. It was quite complicated. And one of the things that the person I was working with wanted to put in the ad was, I can't remember the exact context, but blah blah blah. You are 100% guaranteed to whatever it was, and it was a fair thing to say for this particular ad. It wasn't a therapist or a coach, the other person, and the tutor of the group said you can't put that. Well, why not? It's true.
Hmm.
No, Google doesn't allow 100%. It doesn't allow perfection because it believes there is no perfection. Well, as a psychologist, I would argue the same. There is no perfection. We can strive to be the best we can possibly be, but we can never be 100% all the time on the ball. We just can't do that. We're human beings. We're not machines. So one of the things that I notice with many parents of teens in particular is that they think that making a mistake is dreadful. They think they shouldn't be making mistakes. They're the parent, they should be getting it right. So they want to set the best example possible. Yeah, sure, of course they do. But we can't get it all right. And one of the other things that we've got to remember is that teens are still working things out. So that can be a bit messy. It can be a bit difficult. It can be a bit challenging. It can be a lot of things. And we're going to make some mistakes because we don't have all the answers. The world is constantly changing. Our teens are going through all kinds of stuff that we didn't as teens. Some things are the same, but not everything. Things change. But the important thing to remember as a parent is that it's not about perfection. It's about being there. It's about showing up. Because if we show up for our teens, they notice that, they recognize that, and that is a good place to start. So let's show up rather than try and be perfect.
I love that.
Patience, do you
I,
want to add to that?
Yeah, I love that because in many retreats that were are facilitated or even hosted or even in women's circle, and I'm really gonna talk just about that because this is the work that I've done. You will notice women saying, I mean, I'm talking about grown women saying, I felt seen, I felt heard. Exactly what Steve was talking about. When this has been missing in your life in for a long period, the fact that you have this, it kinds of like validates you. We have to be honest with ourselves as human beings in general. we need the validation of others around us. It doesn't mean that you want everyone to validate you, but your family, the close people around you. So imagine your teenager. Imagine your teenager who is going through a lot hormonal changes, you know, the exam stress or everything, girlfriend, boyfriend, like partners, not partners, friendship, all the stress they're going through, all the challenges they're going through. And yet, when they are home, when they are with you as a parent, they feel neither seen or heard. So presence is absolutely everything.
Yeah, absolutely it is. So let's just move on. That's going to be around all the way through this particular episode, I think. You think about this, sometimes you just mentioned it, patients. Sometimes our teens are silent. Sometimes they have a big deal of a mood swing,
Mm.
nice to horrible in kind of 2 seconds, and then back to nice again, pushing us away. I've felt that from my own occasionally, just being pushed away. And it's really easy to take it personally. But the thing is, it isn't personal. It's development, it's developmental. So as parents, we need to actually be able to recognize that we shouldn't take everything personally. I know our little ego gets in the way sometimes and takes
Yes,
it personally, but we need to know that it's not all about us. Sometimes it's simply is a complicated word sometimes, about the development of our teens.
it
So let's
is.
try not to take it personally. I've heard parents I had one yesterday say to me, I'm getting it wrong. I'm not doing this right. She wasn't the parent of a teen, the parent of a 10-year-old and a 7 or 6-year-old. I'm getting it wrong.
Mm.
How can I be better at it than this? I'm not doing it right. And she was really frustrated. I could see the frustration in this woman. Well, what about saying things like, I'm learning every day to be the best parent I can be to my teen, or whatever age they happen to be, but we talk mostly about teens here. So I'm learning how to be the best possible parent to this teen, rather than beat yourself up and say I'm not good enough. Because where does that take you? Just answer that question to yourself, anybody who's watching and listening. Where does it take you? I would put money, I don't gamble, but I put money into that it would be not to a good place,
Yeah,
you know.
that's true.
So we need to reframe what we see as our mistakes sometimes. I keep getting it wrong. I'm not good enough. I'm learning how to. Let's be a little bit more positive with ourselves. Let's show ourselves some self-compassion.
Mm.
I think sometimes as parents we're not so great at that,
No.
especially when it comes to our teens. So patience, do you want to add? Have you got more? I bet you have.
No, I was just really listening to what you're saying, and something came to my mind. The idea when you were talking about self-compassion and really giving yourself grace. Like, you won't get everything right, yet you won't also get everything wrong. That's impossible. So somewhere you are getting things right. Um, but even to come back with your client yesterday, no matter the age of the children, can you imagine as a mother the guilt she's carrying? That guilt, coupled with the evidence that she's already given herself of saying, I'm not good enough, or I'm not like this, or I'm not like that, is not doing her any good. And it's not doing her children any good either. So the fact that you can a little bit like stop the cycle, stop the blaming cycle and go like, okay, you know what? One step at a time. Today, this happened. That was maybe not the best way for me to respond. How can I change that? And Steve and I were talking prior to the call. We were talking about the reframing um, how things are happening. So yes, it might not be perfect, but it's still not the worst. So how do you want to see it? I think this conversation is really important because when we ask ourselves those questions, when we start to think about this relationship of am I getting things wrong or am I really getting things wrong or not, it means that you have this willingness to improve as a parent and to completely change your relationship with your teenagers. Now, now saying that, remember that Steve and I are here for that. This is what we do. We work with parents, we work with your teenagers and yourself to help you support your relationship. Well, I want to say help you, but at the same time, is it really help? We give you the guidance, we give you the tools, and you go and work on your relationship with your children. But at least you have professionals who are there with you and can support you into making it smoother, making the journey smoother.
Yeah. Right, here's a question for everybody out there. Have you ever been in a situation with your children, your teens, where they've blown you out of the water? You have no idea what to say, how to respond. You do respond, but you don't really know what you're going to do, what you're going to say, how you're going to say it. And therefore, things go wrong. I've been in that position. I know I have. It's not difficult to fall down that little rabbit hole. It's not a little rabbit hole, it's huge. We don't need to have the perfect words. We don't need to have that perfect wow response.
Mm.
What we do need to be is emotionally available to our teens, even if that's really quietly. We don't need to jump up in the air and throw our arms around them because they're having a challenge. We don't need to give them an amazing lecture that somebody would be proud to do a TED speech on.
Yes.
Because
Sorry.
if we're emotionally available, that in a way is a lot more powerful than fixing whatever it was that came up. So think about that. Being emotionally available is far more powerful than fixing things. But what can we do though? What sort of things can we use to help us? It's hard work to read a dozen books on bringing up your teen. There are more than a dozen books out there
And,
on this
and
very
still,
topic,
and still.
but we don't have time to read so many. We don't have time to go off and do a course. We've got a life, we've got a job, we've got teens to look after, we've got other things to look after. So we can use some really simple tools. And the first one I call stop. So when they throw something at you, you don't know how to respond. Stop. This is momentarily. Stop. Take a breath. Just pause, breathe in, hold the breath, and gently breathe out. And then ask. You can ask yourself or them, what matters the most right now?
Mm.
Mostly, we'll have a quick response. We'll have one personally, they'll be able to give us one too. So, what matters most right now? And what's one little thing I can do to help with this? Just one little thing. And the response might simply be just listen. So you've got your instruction, just listen. All we've done is slowed everything down. We've not jumped in, we've not put our big boots on or anything like that. We've just slowed things down. Because one of the goals, I think, of being the parent of a teen is to connect rather than correct.
Mm.
If we spend all our days correcting their apparent failings, that's not going to be set up for a good relationship, is it? So that's a simple thing we can do. Stop, pause, breathe, and ask a question. What matters most right now? You don't need to use that question. There are a ton of other questions that you could use. If you're stuck for questions, drop a comment and we'll give you a few examples. No problem. So, Patience, do you have any small tools that you like to use?
Oh, I think in terms of, well, sometimes I do say, I don't know. I don't know what to do right now. I think also being frank and honest. I don't have all the answers, Sophie, as a parent. As a parent, it's not everything that you feel like you can answer to. So sometimes I don't know how to answer to this. And then revisiting this in a time where you feel a bit more inclined to, but not, but not saying this and then it's over. You have to come back. Like, like you can't say, well, I don't know what to say right now, and then it's over. No, because then you are feeding this idea of not seen, not heard. No, you have to come back and say, well, last time or this morning, you told me this. I didn't know how to react, da, da, da. What was happening? And bringing this situation, but in another state, in another mind state. You are no longer in the flight or fright, fight or fright,
Yeah,
response. You're more in a relaxed time and you can, in your own time, explain yourself, but also understand your teenager, where they're coming from.
yeah,
And another thing as well, like when Steve was talking, he mentioned the fact of the pause and that maybe asking what do they need in the moment. And if your child tells you that you need to wait for the information, please. And I'm saying please because I've had a situation with a client like that. Do wait for the information. Do not, and this is really a do not in a big, go and ask for more information.
yeah,
It's not gonna go in the direction you're looking for.
yeah.
Yeah.
And by doing that, the parent is being present. They're hearing, they're listening, they're taking notes, and they're respecting the wishes of the team, which is absolutely essential.
Yeah, it is.
And I think many parents do forget that their presence counts an awful lot. They don't need to know the answer. They need to be there and present. The teen needs to know that mum, dad is present for me. They're there. Might not use that word, but that's fine.
Yeah.
So occasionally, maybe we need to say things like, I see you. Yeah,
Mhm.
I get it. I'm here for you. They're not words that come easily to some of us, but they're very, very powerful and they matter a great deal. They can be very healing, those words as well. When the going gets tough, sometimes it does.
This is the perfect nature nurture situation here.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we better not get into nature nurture today because we're going to be here for a long time if we do that. But I think we do need to follow it up,
Yeah.
perhaps next episode. So let's remember that the presence of parents matters. It
Yes.
matters an awful lot. And it isn't about being perfect, it's not about perfection. We do need to learn to accept the chaos that's around us. It's not aimed at us, not really. It's about development, it's about growth, it's about learning, it's about a ton of things. And as parents, we shouldn't be beating ourselves up. Sometimes we make mistakes. It's called being human. And it is okay to get it wrong occasionally. It's not something we should be beaten over. I know that there are examples in society where it's not good to make a mistake and you get in trouble if you do, or you're told off, or as I was, made to stand at the back of the class several times in school for getting it wrong, whatever it was. You know, it's not about that. And remember to stop. That little
Mm.
tool I suggested. Stop, pause, breathe, and then come back to whatever it was. Ask a question. So it looks like we're going to have to talk nature nurture next time, Patience.
Yes. There's so much more on this subject that obviously we haven't talked about here. Um, but I feel it's really important, even if this brought a bit of like it was a bit like thought-provoking, and you end up in this week, during the week, thinking about what we said, what you've heard in this episode. Just get in touch, ask us follow-up questions, or ask us what are the tools, or just ask us advice on this, and then we'll be able to maybe elaborate a bit more on this subject.
Right,
But yeah, thank you so much for being here with us today, and we will see you for the next episode, I guess.
definitely. Take care, everybody.
Bye.